Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Sports Cavalcade. I'm Steve Evans, and I hope you're hungry for motorsports because we've got a 3-course gourmet delight coming your way, featuring 3 distinctly different types of racing machines. Here in Pomona, California, at the Cheap Autoparts Winternationals, you can hear the noise. Top alcohol dragsters and funny cars going straight. Elsewhere on a... Thanks, Dick. Here in Pomona, California, the final pair of round 2 top alcohol dragster getting lit up and ready. Squirt a little gasoline in that injector of the small block from hell, as a lot of people call it, driven by Rick Santos, just a flyweight of a machine with a little small block Chevrolet. He'll be up against Jim Rizzoli over there in the far lane, a more conventional car with the big Hemi. Let's check in on what happened earlier in this round.
Steve, Greg Summers was the guy that got the break when Brooks Brown had problems in the first round, but he couldn't make it 2 in a row. He was defeated by Steve Faria in round 2. The number 9 qualifier had defeated Sean Hyland in the first round. He'll be meeting John Shoemaker in the final 4. John got his break in that race against Jay Payne, as Steve mentioned in the open of the show. It was Payne in the near lane, Shoemaker in the far lane. Watch close, because this is what many people would consider to be an upset. Payne ran into problems. Shoemaker crossed the finish line, the winner.
I think Jay probably rattled the tires and then got her loose and probably got her up too high and banged it.
Keep it going.
Yeah, Jay Payne's a real good friend of mine. I'm real happy to have raced him and beat him, and he knows that.
Wonder who's buying dinner. Folks, one thing that makes this class so interesting is the variety of engines. This is the Arius, specially built for drag racing and boat racing.
Well, Steve, if anybody knows about boat racing, they know the name Tim Capaldi. He met up earlier with Bill Barney in round number 2. It was Capaldi in the near lane in the shot-in-the-dark car. The Castrol Dragster, driven by Bill Barney, was in the far lane. Barney had the advantage off the starting line, but was unable to capitalize as Capaldi won the race.
About half track, I thought for sure I was done. But about 3/4 track, when he either banged a blow or something, I slid right by him. It was great.
Now the engines are running on the starting line for the final race of round number 2. You're looking on as Rick Santos gets himself set in the cockpit, alongside Jim Rizzoli doing the same. They're approaching the staging beams.
The reason Rick Santos' car can be competitive against Rizzoli is because the rules are based on engine type and weight in cubic inch. He's got a small motor, he can have a very light car. Rizzoli, on the other hand, packing a few more pounds to keep everything equal. Great start. Rizzoli out ahead of the small block, but here comes Santos from Northern California. A 6.16 second elapsed time for the quarter mile, and he accumulates 224 miles an hour in his trip. So the final 4 will be Rick Santos against boat racer, car racer Tim Capaldi. Capaldi has the lane choice. Bit of a surprise there.
Steve, on the other side of the ladder, it's the John Shoemaker you referred to in the open of the show. He will be up against Steve Faria, and Faria holds the choice of lanes. Now, let's go down to the far end of the racetrack. Here's Steve Evans.
Well, Rick, in the fall, you dominated here, but you're struggling. You're winning, but not the right way.
Yeah, this ain't the right way I'd like it to happen. It's just shaking, and we're trying everything, and we can't seem to get around it.
A 6.16, the slowest win of the round, really.
Yeah, I pedaled and got back in it, and I didn't see him coming around me, so I just stayed with it.
Well, you're not alone with this problem. Everybody seems to be facing the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. The track seems to be good enough. It's just we can't seem to hit the right combination, I guess.
Keep going.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's have another look at one of the motors in these cars. This is a drag racing version of a 350 Chevy, a motor very similar to what you might have under the hood of your Camaro or even early model Chevrolet. So that's how things shape up in top alcohol dragster here at Pomona, and we'll be back later in the show with a look at alcohol funny car action.
One of the most important pieces.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cheap Autoparts Winternationals. Round number 2 of top alcohol funny car is just now concluding. The final race in the near lane, Mike Gordon, in the far lane is Jet Field. Dave McClellan, what happened earlier in this round of interest to everyone at home?
Steve, Pat Austin had qualified number 12 in the Castrol Syntec Oldsmobile and beat Terry DeLaverne in round number 1, but he was running off pace and told us why.
Well, that's pretty good for the heat of the day, you know. I give my dad and the guys credit. Brand new car, we just got it done the Sunday before the race, and we didn't get to test, but come in here and weren't qualified until the last pass and got it qualified in the Syntec Funny Car, you know. Beautiful car, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. It wins my award, Best Appearing Car.
Write that down. Everybody got that? Steve Evans, Best Appearing Car.
Only problem is it's not a car show. Pat will race Randy Anderson in the final 4. Randy beat Dale Van Gundy and then dropped Rick Hinkleman in round 2.
Well, that was indeed World Championship driving, a 4:03 light.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you what, at the end of last year, I started to get my act together on the lights. Yesterday, 4:37, my last qualifying shot, and I'm feeling real good right now.
A 5:93 make you feel even better.
Yeah, that's awfully good for as hard as it shook and moved around. And Pat Austin ran real well there. He ran 5:90, but this is going to be a drag race.
It will be a great race between Randy and Pat coming up in just a few moments, but still in round number 2 action. It was Mert Littlefield in the near lane, John Weaver in the far lane. Reaction time advantage substantially to Littlefield, but Weaver was able to outpower him, running a 5:97 at 2:33.
Austin impressed you with that 5:90 though?
Austin, what can you say about Austin? I mean,
Yeah, he always impresses us.
yeah, he's a good runner, and we run his stuff, and he's a good runner.
You may end up racing him before the day's over.
I hope so. Thank you.
Here it is, the final race of round number 2. Mike Gordon in the near lane, Jet Field in the far lane. The burnout procedure's over. The concentration begins now on getting a good start and advantage if you can.
Believe it or not, that's a Thunderbird body on the left-hand side of your picture and Olds Cutlass on the right-hand side. Close enough, right, for government work. All right. And it's a red light. Gordon red lights automatically, gives the win to Jet Field from Pocatello, Idaho. I think he gambled just a little bit, knowing Field was awfully strong. At 6:03, 229 miles an hour. So, Dave, that sets up the final 4.
John Weaver will be racing Jet Field on one side of the ladder, with the Dreamweaver having the choice of lanes. The other side, the race we talked about earlier. Pat Austin and Randy Anderson. I can't wait to see this one. Austin has the lane choice here.
Now let's give
Winternationals. It's time for the final 4 of Top Alcohol Dragster. The Hemi motor used by the shot-in-the-dark car of Tim Capaldi, or can this man, Rick Santos, use that highly popular, certainly the crowd favorite, small block Chevrolet to power his way past to the finish line?
There are so many people here from Northern California that support that little Chevrolet of Rick Santos. And it's amazing the durability that they have got over the years. Let's remember, they've been running that combination for probably 18 or 20 years, starting with the father and down to the son.
Without question, the most successful small block Chevy ever in Top Alcohol Dragster racing. The light car off first. He had his hands full. Look at that. Problems for Capaldi, and Santos wins it at 6:07, 225 miles an hour. Capaldi had a great lead, but wasn't able to capitalize as problems set forth out on the racetrack. Back up at the starting line, engines are coming to life. John Shoemaker getting his Arias fired up. He'll be going off against Steve Faria. Pulling into the water box, a long smoky burnout will ensue. Get those tires hot. Now to Steve and one of our finalists.
All right, how many fingers do you see? That thing shook so hard, your vision's got to be blurred.
Yeah, that thing, I'm going to have to start wearing boxing gloves to drive this thing pretty soon. It's beating me up.
At 6:07, that's getting closer.
Yeah, but man, I got to be able to leave my foot in it and drive this thing straight.
Is it painful? I mean, do you feel it the next day even?
No, but it's sure beating my wrist up here lately. I don't know. We're going to have to do something.
Good luck on it.
Thank you.
That tire vibration, the whole car sets into shape. That's what caused Rick Santos to go out of shape on that previous run.
I have never seen John Shoemaker so pumped up. He's got his flag appropriate for a car called the American Eagle. He has never won an NHRA national event. In fact, this is the closest I believe he has ever been. A chassis builder. Look at him. I mean, he is having fun no matter what happens, Dave.
He looks like one of those young lions, young Turks in this sport, like a Pat Austin or a Randy Anderson in Alcohol Funny Car. Literally beat themselves into a frenzied state before they get into the staging bings, trying to cut a good number. Getting an advantage at the start is like money in the bank.
Faria taking his time. Finally in. Oh, Shoemaker, incredibly alert. This is a guy over 50 years of age. And he wins it by about 6 inches. Far lane, the American Eagle. 6:07 at 225 to a losing 6:09 at 2:14. That's a happy bunch.
Let's go back and look at this race again in replay and watch John Shoemaker perform superbly alongside of Steve Faria off the starting line. This was one close drag race, and as they neared the finish line, Shoemaker was very fortunate to be able to hold on because Faria was trying to slam the door on him but could not make the move. The margin of victory at the finish line was only 17 thousandths of a second. That sets up the final round in Top Alcohol Dragster. John Shoemaker against the small block Chevy of Rick Santos. The Idaho Kid has got the lane nearest our camera, while John, the Dreamweaver, is over on the far side of the racetrack. Could develop into a fairly close side-by-side race. As Steve pointed out earlier, equalizing the types of engines, all cars run on alcohol fuel, so that balances it out there. A red light start by Jet Field. He left before starter Buster Couch even activated the tree.
I think his foot slipped on the accelerator or something. 6 flat to a 603. Weaver outperformed him anyway. Have another look. This is ridiculous.
As you can see, he just left. And John Weaver moves into the finals of Top Alcohol Funny Car. Here's the next pair. And Pat Austin's having problems. Mike Austin, his brother, the crew chief on the car, had to grab another starter motor. Apparently, they had a failure in the electric motor that spins over the supercharger that is strapped to the crankshaft. That's how they get the motor to turn over, and it comes to life. The engine running, so they were able to salvage this run, which everybody here at Pomona is looking forward to. Pat Austin against Randy Anderson, and there certainly has been no love lost between these teams. Steve?
Well, John, you are just one round away from weaving yourself a real dream.
Yes, we are. Everybody's happy. This is a family operation, and this is a family effort.
I wish I could give you a 5, but 6 flat is the best I can do.
That's pretty good. Track got a little cold, I think, and we'll just see what happens. So I have to go back and tune her up a little bit, I think.
Okay. A very likely opponent might be Pat Austin, right, Dave?
That's a possibility now that the engine's running. Pat Austin in the Castrol Syntec Oldsmobile. As you heard earlier, a brand new race car completed only a week ago, unable to do any testing with it. Here they are in the final 4. Their opponent, the Slick 50 Brad Anderson engines Pontiac Formula Firebird, driven by Randy Anderson.
Randy Anderson lives about 5 minutes from Pomona Raceway. Pat Austin from Tacoma, Washington. One of the winningest drivers in the history of drag racing, also campaigns a top fuel car, but right now, alcohol is on his mind. Look at him sit there a little bit. It was Austin in first, Austin away first. Anderson panics a little bit over the center line. Pat Austin was in total control of this race. Ooh, this won't make John Weaver happy. This is not a dream, this is a nightmare. 589 for Pat Austin.
Here in replay, watch the car in the near lane. Boy, did Pat Austin cut a light. He was away by nearly a car length before Randy Anderson moved. Then they got into the vibration. It's called tire shake. It's not the fault of the tires. It is a vibration set up as a result of the tune-up. The amount of horsepower, the clutch setting, the whole combination. He crossed the center line. Pat Austin was the automatic winner, but he also ran 589 to earn lane choice in the championship round against John Weaver. Here again is Steve.
A little tension there at the starting line, Mr. Austin.
Well, you got to make it interesting. I guess that was one way of being interesting. But battery pack started short, and it was like the solenoid crossed, and it started burning up all the wires. Hey, Johnny. See you, bud.
Soon.
Yeah, soon. It started, they went to plug the starter in just to get ready, and the thing took off, and I almost run over one of my guys, so thank gosh we're ready.
They're cooling off that red-hot small block Chevy as Rick Santos gets ready for the final. Now, let's go back to Toledo.
With Steve Evans.
Thanks, guys. Terrific stuff from Toledo, where, as you saw, it's dark. And even with the time zones, it's getting real dark here, Dave McClellan.
It is. As the sun begins to set out over the Pacific Ocean, we're ready for the finals of Top Alcohol Dragster. You're looking on at the S&S Automotive Small Block Chevrolet. Rick Santos inside that roll cage, giving a thumbs-up sign to the crew.
Well, I imagine most of their work between rounds was done on the clutch and trying to find a combination between clutch and tire pressure, anything to get rid of the dreaded shake. Santos told us it was actually painful, it was hurting his wrist. John Shoemaker, on the other end, he's had a nice balance of power, but maybe not quite quick enough to run with Santos.
Steve, you know what's unusual? Given the numbers, here we see a small block Chevrolet and an Arias motor, nary a Chrysler Hemi derivative in sight.
Horrible tire shake for Santos, who had a big hole shot. He had to lift to keep the car and himself together, and Shoemaker drives around. At 6:15, 2:25, he wins the Winternationals in a car of his own design and construction.
Steve, let's go back and watch this one again in replay, and maybe we can pick up in the car in the far lane all the vibration we've been talking about. It really shook hard right about now. And this is where John Shoemaker, with a much smoother run, was able to pull up alongside and ahead of Rick Santos. Now, the small block Chevy had the advantage coming into the final round, but it really didn't make a whole lot of difference because the tire shake had put him so far back he could not catch Shoemaker. 6:15, not a time you'd expect as a winner, but that's who John is. Here's Steve.
How many years have you been trying to win one of these things?
Well, this class started in 1975, and I helped originate it. And it's been, we went to the final then against Don Enriquez in 1975, and we went to runner-up at Seattle a couple years ago.
But you finally have done it.
We finally done it, Steve. How about that?
Absolutely. A 6:15, but who cares?
Yeah, I need to thank Kendall Motor Oil, everybody in Sacramento that helps me, Bob Santolini, my wife Judy, 30 years, and all my crew, Rick Paradis from Fontana Automotive, and I can't be happier. And Rick Santos is probably one of my best friends, and he's a real good racer. We race each other all the time at Sacramento Raceway.
The American Eagle flew right into the winner's circle here at Pomona.
Steve, incredible as it may seem, John Shoemaker is finally a winner on the NHRA Winston Trail. Here we go, finals in top alcohol funny car. The Dreamweaver, John Weaver, underway with his burnout. And this is Pat Austin, the Castrol Syntec Oldsmobile, with definitely a big advantage. It's happy down at Steve's place at the far end of the racetrack. Here comes the crew to begin the celebration of the Top Alcohol Dragster Championship. Rick Santos over to offer his thanks and congratulations as well.
They call this quarter-mile Parker Avenue, named after the late chief of police that was so instrumental in this facility ever being. And there's a man who is being on top of things, along with his dad, Walt. You know, there's a temptation here when you see a guy run a 589 to year 6 flat to maybe gamble on the tree. But you know, philosophically, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think Mrs. Weaver does either. You gotta, don't red light, in other words, because you can't possibly win if you did.
We saw earlier Jet Field red lighting against this self-same Weaver, and that put Field out of any contention at all. So that's something else you got to think about. It's much more complex to drive one of these race cars than it looks from the outside.
And a lot of pressure to race Pat Austin, the best there's ever been. Weaver's away first. And Weaver has won it. Here at Pomona, we have two first-time winners in the alcohol classes. 6:02 at 2:35 to Austin 6:08. He left on him and he outran him.
Watch the car in the near lane. The advantage, about 100th of a second. But I think maybe Pat Austin may have gotten bit by the tire shake bug as well, because down track, it was John Weaver pulling ahead and maintaining that lead. Now remember, in the previous round, Austin had run much quicker, could not duplicate that performance here as Weaver heads across the finish line by one full car length ahead. Our congratulations to John Weaver. Steve's there to talk to him.
Well, John, I guess the dream has done been woven, huh? You're the winner of the Winternationals.
Thank you. Yeah, the dream has been woven. It's been a long time. We've had a uphill climb, and it's been great. Mom and Dad, Automan, and my girlfriend's dad, Leland, and my girlfriend, my kids. I mean, this is a whole family operation.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So as the jubilant Weaver crew descends upon the far end of the racetrack, it's time for us to check out of here. For Steve Evans and the entire crew of American Sports Cavalcade, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Pomona. American Sports Cavalcade is a production of Diamond P Sports and a presentation of the Nashville Network.